What is up? Today I want to talk about the difference between intellect and intelligence. So I would describe the difference between the two as intelligence comes from the heart, intellect comes from the brain, mind, specifically the left hemisphere. So the reason why this is important is because in the society I live in, Western civilization or any industrialized modern day culture is heavily dependent upon the left hemisphere, the intellect. And the reason why that is dangerous is because the intellect only has a very, very limited pool of information to draw from, and it is disconnected from the whole. Therefore, it causes harm to the whole, which is why we are living in a world on the brink of destruction, essentially. And a solution to this is balancing the hemispheres of the brain, which allow you to also anatomically reconnect to the intelligence of the heart. So I will get into exactly what I mean. The heart has been shown biologically to be connected to the left ventricle of the heart is directly connected to something in your prefrontal lobe of your brain called the orbital frontal complex. There is a direct connection. You could Google orbital frontal complex in the heart, and a study from NCI, I believe, will come up. It should be the first result. And they have evidentially showed that connection. So the importance here is that our heart has been shown to have essentially it is a brain of its own. It has neurons in it. And why I call this intelligence is because the field of the heart, the electromagnetic field, has been shown to be three-tiered. The first tier of your heart's electromagnetic field dictates the body, and it's the orchestrator of the entire symphony of all of the cells in your body. It directs everything, the heart, that frequency, okay? It affects all of the other frequencies that all of your other organs emit. This has been showed by Heart Math Institute. Again, you could look up their research to see the science behind this. The second field I would call the emotional relational field, and that has been shown to connect us to each other. It's very relational. It's about relationships. So when you meet someone and you say, oh, I just didn't like them, they had a bad vibe, I don't know why, or I did like them, I really liked their energy, when we use terms like that, we're picking up that information through the heart field. Okay, and the third heart field is essentially, they believe that it's infinite because every time they improve the technology that they use to measure the electromagnetic field, the distance that this third field goes, they can keep measuring it. So it goes beyond their instrumentation. It could be infinite, but what they show is that that third field connects us to the field of Gaia. And in scientific terms, that would be the electromagnetic field of the Earth, okay? Which then connects to the other planets, other galaxies, so on and so forth. And in this way, everything is literally connected, okay? So the information that the heart picks up and can transmit to the brain has a much higher potential to be actually in harmony and in alignment with the greater whole of creation, because it's actually literally energetically connected to the environment. Okay, so it can pull from a nearly infinite source of information, as opposed to the intellect, which is limited to our conscious mind, which is really just our past experiences, habituations, memories, emotional reactions, and so on and so forth. So the key to balancing out our thinking and actions and behaviors to be in alignment, to be healing and nourishing for ourselves, for each other, and our planet, is to get in touch with what Rudolf Steiner, the great 19th century spiritual scientist, called heart thinking. And what Rudolf Steiner pointed out in the early 1900s is that the heart is not a pump. The heart will teach us a new way to think, to literally think thoughts, a new way to think. He calls it heart thinking. And this is cutting edge medical information in the field of science and medicine, is that the heart is actually not a pump. It's a vortice, and it spins the blood, but it doesn't pump it. You could look up, what is the book? I forget the book off the top of my head, but he is a heart doctor who wrote a book about this, and I'll put the title somewhere in this video so you could check it out and see the research behind what I'm saying. But if you take all those sources that I'm pointing to, you could start to build your own model so it could be your truth, and you don't have to just take my word for it. So the heart can teach us a new way to think. The problem is that most people, unless like you're an artist or musician or do some type of creative work, the messages from the heart get blocked out because our left hemisphere is heavily favored over our right hemisphere. And the process goes like this. The heart picks up information and can send it to the brain, but because it's connected to the whole, the information is in gestalt form. It's a whole picture. It's not broken down into all of its parts. That's the job of the intellect, to break down the image and the symbol into its parts, okay? And so what picks up symbols, gestalts, what thinks in a holistic way is the right hemisphere. But because of this imbalance, the messages of the right hemisphere get blocked out from the intellect, because the intellect immediately jumps in and goes, oh no, like this is my job, I know how to do this, I'll figure this out. So the key here is to be able to get those messages from the heart. We have to develop our intuitive space, which is the right hemisphere of the brain. That's why I mentioned artists, musicians, creative people have that advantage to some extent, because they have worked that capacity, that muscle. And it is a muscle. Just like in school, you learn to train your intellect by learning how to multiply and how to, use grammar and all of that information. We can use tools to develop our right brain. So the left brain, the logical brain, has great tools, but shit information, no information. Just what you already know, which is, not a lot comparatively speaking to the infinite amount of information that is in the universe. The right brain has access to all of that information, but it has shit tools. It's for most people, it's unreliable. They haven't learned and developed a methodology to tap that information in a reliable, consistent manner. And what I'm alluding to here, this balance of the hemispheres of the brain, it opens the door to the information from the heart field, which is connected to the universe. That's essentially the whole point of this, of what I'm saying. Very simply, that's it. To me, why that is so important is because if you look at Earth, all mammals, all animals develop a natural equilibrium with their environment, except humans. We end up destroying the environment because we just can't get into balance with it. In my opinion, my theory is that part of that is because we have severed this connection between the heart brain and the mind brain, and have even imbalanced the hemispheres of the brain to only take in the information of the intellect. So we have this imbalance within us, which results in this imbalance outside of us, as above, so below. So restoring this internal balance, I believe, can be a huge key in restoring the balance on this planet with our selves, each other, and our environment, and all of the other life forms on Earth. And also that this the severing of this system, this connection, the heart-mind connection, and the balancing of our mind so that we can receive this information and use it in the world. The loss of that function is, I think, the reason why no matter what technology we come up with, it ends up being harmful. because the mind asks, the intellect asks, is it possible? The heart asks, is it necessary? That's the difference between intellect and intelligence. The mind asks, is it possible? The heart asks, is it necessary? That is basically sums up the difference between heart thinking and mind thinking. That statement, is it necessary, implies that there is a considering of the whole. We're taking into account how this is going to affect the entire ecosystem, the entire ecology, the entire planet. And when we think, is it possible, it's coming from a very isolated, narrowed view of fragmentation. It's not connected to everything else. It's just this forward-moving, linear, kind of secluded path that has proven to give us a lot of amenities, and really, we have evolved in certain ways. But this is the next step, in my opinion, is stepping into this more balanced way of thinking, this new way of thinking and being. And I mean, it makes sense if we can actually obtain information from the electromagnetic fields of our body, of our heart, that are literally connected to the rest of creation, the rest of our environment, then what we do is going to be more aligned and more supportive of that environment. That's why any technology, even if when it first comes out, it seems to be good, right? Like cell phones, it seems to be connecting us, but it came from the intellect. So eventually what surfaces is the imbalance, and eventually it disturbs the equilibrium of the system. So now what we're seeing with 5G and EMF and all of these really harmful side effects of the technology that at first we thought it seemed to be really great, actually is really detrimental in some ways. It's because, I think, it's because it's coming from the intellect. So no matter how good it seems, it can't take in all the possible parameters that it needs to, because it's too limited. It can't access the wide field of information that the right hemisphere and the heart can. So it has to, when it can come through that channel, that pathway, it comes through heart thinking, to use Rudolf Steiner's term. The technology that comes through heart thinking is going to be much more attuned and aligned and in harmony with the universe. And I think will not have those detrimental side effects. So this is a long video, and I'm gonna cut it into two parts. This first part that I just gave you is just the theory, just the idea, the concept, the formulation of what I'm pointing to here. And then in a second video, I'm gonna give you actual techniques that you can use to strengthen the intuitive space of your mind, okay? And some really, really great techniques that were actually used, in many scientific studies, and even used by the government at one point. So these are really powerful techniques, and I'll make a part 2 for that, so that you can begin to actually make this experiential and apply what I'm saying if you feel moved to do that. So thank you guys for being here with me, and I trust that this information will serve you in some way. And if it has, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think, and follow and subscribe for more information like this if it resonated with you. All right, peace.